Peacock is the streaming home of Wicked.
They'll never bring us down.
Wicked, rated PG, streaming now, only on Peacock.
I love Michael Mann, and I love Thief. It's my favorite film out of all of his movies. I love the score in particular.
Oh, so you love it. So you're one of the people that go against it.
I think it's criminal that it got a Razzie.
Hello, I'm Jacqueline Coley. Welcome to Scene on the Screen, brought to you by Make It Universal and Rotten Tomatoes, where we talk movies with some of the people behind the scenes at NBC Universal. When entertainment works best, sometimes it opens a window into a world we've never imagined. Other times it shows us a mirror image of our lives with a heightened sense of home. Today, we're going to dig into the question, what have you seen on the screen that has done that? My guest today is President of Blumhouse, Abhijay Prakash. Abhijay, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so first things first, it's my favorite question, but I have to tweak it a little bit for you. Who are you and how are you associated with NBC Universal?
Well, I'm Abhijay Prakash. I'm currently president at Blumhouse. I worked at Universal for a long time, for almost 17 years. I started here as an intern way back when, and then about 2 years, a little over 2 years ago, I moved over to Blumhouse. So not at NBC Universal, but still in the family. Obviously, our most important film partnership is with Universal.
Yeah, and I would say Universal works with a ton of partners, but Blumhouse has become synonymous with Universal Pictures, from everything we do at Halloween Horror Nights to everything at the box office. I mean, it's bigger than just even the films. But tell me a little bit about how that was for you transitioning. I would imagine this is one of those things where that's actually the benefit of working at a place like this, is there's tons of stories like yours where they worked here for a while and then grew into other parts of the business.
Yeah, I mean, it was super organic, like you said. And even my experience at Universal, I had worked in kind of different divisions at Focus and at DreamWorks, as well as kind of at the main studio. And so this, in some ways, kind of felt like another version of that. I over the time working at Universal, got to know Jason and a lot of the team at Blumhouse pretty well. And when I was looking to do something that was, a little smaller and being a little bit closer to the filmmaking process, it was kind of a natural, organic thing that happened, pretty easily, really. And like you said, because I worked here for so long at Universal, so much of our business still is me talking to people like Donna and Peter Kramer and Michael Moses and Dwight on the phone. And so I still have all those connections, and it's super helpful for how we do business. And, Jimmy Horowitz is on our board, and I work with Jimmy for like almost 20 years. So it's really easy.
Yeah, so Donna Langley, chairman of content for Universal, Michael Moses, head of marketing, CMO, and then Peter Kramer, head of production. Yeah. For those that are not as in the know,
I just dropped all the names. Like
No.
Everybody's, on the same phone sheet as me.
Seriously,
yeah.
This is the podcast. Drop them if you got them. Like, if you have the names, we are down to hear them, because it's a heavy room, as they say when you walk the halls of Universal. There's a lot of people that are making culture. They're making art, and Blumhouse is a huge part of that. But I'd love for you to talk about how you started as a film fan, I would assume, to then eventually led you to be a Universal Pictures intern, before we get into your time more recently with Blumhouse.
Yeah, sure. I'm the child of immigrants. My parents immigrated from India in the late 60s, and I grew up in suburban Boston. And going all the way back, I know this is like the full therapist couch answer.
I'm here for it.
In retrospect, kind of psychoanalyzing myself, was really looking to fit in, as one of the only brown kids in a largely white suburb. And I think my way of doing that was pop culture, was movies, music, sports, even politics, things that I could connect with other people over. And just in that process, I mean, I fell in love with storytelling and movies, and growing up in the, cable TV era, had access to, way more than people before me, not as much as people today. But in that process, fell in love with movies. It even also started with my parents. being from India. They're big Indian film fans, Bollywood fans. There's a great picture of me, I think when I was just tiny, like in the late 70s, on an Indian movie set with a star and my mom, and
Wow.
he's mussing my hair. This actor Shashi Kapoor, and
Nice.
and so it's been there from the beginning. So there were going to the movies with my dad. There were Indian movies when I was a kid, and it just instilled in me this fascination with filmmaking and storytelling, and not just in being enthralled with getting lost in it and the imagination, also how it informed points of view, also how it could speak to your personal experience. And that just stayed with me until, I don't know, some point after college, when I kind of realized, oh, you could have a career in it. I always just thought I would have this distance. It's like, it's a thing I consume with the money I make and the time I have. But when I made that connection that there was a possibility of like working in it and I could contribute in some way, that changed everything for me, personally and professionally, moving to LA and trying to find a job in the business.
I mean, I think that's so cool. And I love that that's a part of this podcast, is because there's so many positions out there that folks didn't even know existed before you kind of, you can dare to dream to be there, but they can see, interviews with folks like you and other folks that we've spoken to, and they'd be like, oh, this is a job. Like they pay people for this. I think it's so funny that you talk about how you grew up loving cinema and loving storytelling, because I'm sure your parents, who cultivated and nurtured your love of art and filmmaking and storytelling, were almost feeling betrayed. I'm sure they were like, what? Movies? No.
No. There was a list. It was doctor first, engineer second. And that was the whole list. Maybe being a lawyer like crept to the bottom of the list. And it was very much built in this mentality of, I came here with nothing and you guys are here and I need to know that you can be fed and have a life and, give me grandchildren one day. And those are the only careers that I can be assured, it'll happen for you. And even though we watched a lot of movies and went to the movies and, engaged in the consumption of pop culture, they never made the connection of, oh, you might work in it. That was not allowed. This is just something you do with your free time.
Yeah.
And it was always, the joke was, for me and other people like me who are considering careers in that area, it was like, you can do that on the side. I mean, that's a nice hobby. I had a friend who was trying to be an actor at the same time that I moved out here, and they're like, he should do that on the side and then apply to med school. And
definitely med school and acting.
And
that's
it took,
right.
of course, those things naturally go together. It's like peanut butter and chocolate. It took a long time, I think, until I had the trappings of a real job, like an office, a reserved parking space, a phone number, someone who occasionally answered my phone if I wasn't there, that they were like, oh, this is a thing, and I'm okay with it. But it took a long time because they had to reframe themselves. But also, I don't want to paint them in too negative a light. They were supportive of anything that gave me passion and joy, and they never tried to block it or stop it or cut me off or anything like that. They were like, are you sure? Seems risky. But when it worked out in the end, they were obviously pretty happy.
I would imagine, like, head of a studio. I'm sure they've gotten a peek inside of some of the perks. But let's talk a little bit about your work at Blumhouse too, because I know that you definitely worked with Jason a lot prior to going over there. But that is, in a way, a Hollywood story within Hollywood, to see how that studio has grown in the past few years, and more importantly, really changed the way horror is seen.
Yeah, I think it's remarkable. There's so much of what Jason and the team have built that is kind of revolutionary and totally different than the norms of how the business is conducted, right? Micro budgets, building failure into the system, even being willing to change the way distribution works. One of my favorite things in the time I was at Universal and engaging with Jason, usually I'd get the phone call. It's like, we've got a problem, or we have a thing, we don't know how to figure it out, or we're thinking about doing this, and would you mind talking to Jason? Or he'd call me and say they're thinking about doing this. And one of those moments actually was Invisible Man, when, and it wasn't so much, fine, the movie was starting, part of this shift where IP became part of what Blumhouse was doing, but still within the Blumhouse model, obviously to great success. But I remember right after the release is when COVID started, and there was like this moment of, okay, what are we going to do with this movie that's doing so well at the box office? And that's when we were rolling out the plan at the studio of doing premium video on demand. and then being one of many, but one of the people who was explaining to Jason like how this is going to work and how it would still be, result in yield a good result, hopefully for the company, and then updating him. I remember every like Thursday and Saturdays we get the results from the home entertainment team of saying like this is what it means and translating. Okay, this much PVOD revenue would have been this much box office, but Jason was on board the whole time, right?
Nice.
Of like, okay, I want to figure this out. I want to be a part of how things are changing, and I really always admired his willingness to lean into new things. And now being at the company, I still feel that, right?
Yeah.
We're growing our volume. We've got a lot of great movies coming in the next year. We've got a mix of IP and originals. And so it's not even like I did one thing and I did it great and I'm only going to do that, but just being able to evolve and still grow and still try to push the boundaries of what can be done in the business, I think is so remarkable. And there's two elements of it. There's the scary stories part of it. And then there's also the low cost, high creative freedom, bet on yourself philosophy. And both of those things, permeate through the halls of everything we do at Blumhouse.
I really dig it. And that brings me kind of to my next question before we dive into some of the stuff that you've seen on the screen. And that's what you've been most proud of that you've done, either at your time at Universal or at your time at Blumhouse, because this is something I think folks in your position take very seriously, is that you influence culture. Right. It's more than just the 2 hours that somebody is escaping from whatever they're escaping from. They cry, they laugh, they giggle, whatever. It's really can influence more than that.
Yeah. Boy, most proud of it. It's hard to pick like a thing. I'd say the first time when I moved out of I was like running the strategy department inside of the film studio, and then I remember having this real honest conversation with Donna about focus features, and we wanted to change how things were operating there, and kind of written up a plan. And I handed her this piece of paper, and she handed it back to me, and she's like, "I think you should do it this time." And I was like, I kind of was thinking that too. And so then going over there and then building a slate with my partners like Peter Kajowski, who's obviously still killing it there, and building that slate and having movies like The Darkest Hour and Phantom Thread come out in that first stretch, but really resetting the company on this new trajectory at the time, and now that it's still continuing and flourishing. It gives me great joy even today to see how well it's going. And I had a similar experience at DreamWorks Animation, honestly, which started with a couple years. It takes a lot longer to build the slate because of the animation process, but How to Train Your Dragon 3 being, one of the first things that emerged post the combination with Universal. That movie's incredible. I love that franchise. I'm so excited. I remember talking about the live action possibility, and I'm so excited that's coming too. So if I had to point to a couple things, it's really how those businesses' trajectories changed and the role I got to play in it. And then every single one of the releases that comes out, I take great pride in, because I know that there's a whole system and a team behind it that's allowing that to sustain itself. And I've always thought about my job that way, or my contributions, honestly, as there's this incredible thing, which is filmmaking and movies, and I want to be able to sustain its creation. And so my role is, what can I do to make this sustainable and thrive? Because on one face of it, you're making art, and like that seems really hard to sustain and make money and employ all these people and grow and function as a business. But I love that challenge of like, oh, no, there's a way actually for this to really work and to flourish and to empower people, influence people, inform people, and capture their imagination. And so putting my own, particular spot inside the system is, okay, how do I sustain the creation of this thing and how it can keep going is kind of what I've always thought of as my mission.
Well, thank you for talking a little bit about your journey and how you are still very much associated with NBC Universal. But now we're going to dive into our popcorn buckets and the things that you have seen on the screen. So I'm going to read these out. It is going to be a quote from a film that you've hopefully seen on the screen. If you have a special connection to it, let it fly.
All right.
But I think you're going to be great on this. Let's go.
Right.
Life is just like that sometimes. We're hoping for a unicorn and we get a goat.
Oh, that's Despicable Me.
Yes, that
I
is.
don't know which one, but I remember it's a Despicable Me quote.
It's Despicable Me 3.
Yeah.
The house that the Minions built. I know it's
Yeah.
Gru's story in
Yeah.
Despicable Me, but I
Right.
just do have to say we're on the lot. There's a huge Minion like right overlooking us, like right here.
Uh-huh.
And between the Despicable Me
Not
movie,
just overlooking you, overlooking like the 101. I
Fair.
see on the way to the
Yes.
office, I see that one every day. Yeah.
Sorry, I should say that. Yes, overlooking basically all of the valley, not just me, but I stare at it. But no, it's just between that and the Minions, and just how like it's a global brand.
Totally. It's incredible. Every time you're in some far-flung place in the world and you see one of the Minions, it's a kind of an amazing thing of like, oh, is this what it was like when like Mickey Mouse or Superman was first created and it just popped up all over and
Yeah.
everybody's attachment to it. It's kind of unreal.
Also, I really love the Minions speak. It's like a real thing. Like this
Yeah.
is like a whole like language, and like it's not just gibberish. Like there's a science behind
Yeah,
it. I was like,
yeah.
I did not know this. I've seen the video. Is there anything else that you have attached to Despicable
I
Me
mean,
3?
I remember my kids were very young, but that was the Despicable Me premieres and the Minion premieres are incredible. They're like a whole amusement park for the opening of a movie. And as soon as they could like be awake for that long, we brought them to one of those premieres. It was incredible. And then they went to every single one and they'd be like, can we bring friends? I'm like, there's a limit to how many people we can bring. But they are some of the most cherished memories we have. And there's great photographs of that time and rides. And yeah, it was one of those really special moments when you can bring, work and the enjoyment that I had at work when I could do that to my family. It doesn't happen all the time, but when you can, it's like a real exponential effect. And that was one of those things where you can marry the work that you do with, enjoyment for the family and have that all happen in one go. And definitely all the Despicable Me movies, even now, are still like that for us.
I dig it. Please let the dreams be real.
Oh, this is Black Phone.
This is Black Phone,
Yeah.
which was, I shouldn't say this because nobody who makes a movie wants to think that it's surprising how successful it is. But that was
Yeah.
a surprise hit for some people.
Yeah.
And I mean, looking at the slate, we're going to obviously do a sequel.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, we're working on Black Phone 2 now. It'll come out later in 2025. We're super excited about it. I remember, though, going back to when the first one was gestating and, you can hear the concept and sounds spooky. I mean, it was the way I was raised in like the 80s. That was the most terrifying thing could ever happen, which is stranger with balloons in a van. But all of that just went to another level when the visage, the mask, became the iconography of the movie, became a part of it. I mean, for me, everything clicked into place when you see that, because like already what was a pretty chilling, spooky concept went to another level when you could just see the visual that Scott Derrickson and the team came up with to accompany the story. And then the way that Ethan carried it off, I mean, it's just Ethan Hawke carried it off. It's just all was executed at such a high level. And I think that's the secret of how the movie became so successful. It opened to a pretty good number, but then its multiple was great. So it really just played at the box office and got to this amazing almost $200 million of worldwide box office performance.
And it's another example, I think, of sort of the Blumhouse model. I mean, this is a house that was built on paranormal activity, in which case I say, if it's a good idea, you can do it again. It's true, though, but it is absolutely true but that's not the only sequel. I mean, we're going to get a Megan 2 this year.
Megan 2 and Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Yeah, so 3 of our kind of biggest franchises are all going to have sequels coming in 2025, which is remarkable. And we really feel like there's a lot more storytelling to be done in all of those worlds.
We're going to put our quotes away,
Okay.
and now we're going to dive into our other popcorn bucket.
Okay. All right. I should have looked in those beforehand. but
No,
didn't.
no cheating. This one's going to be true or false.
All right.
A giant shark used in Jaws was nicknamed Bruce after Steven Spielberg's lawyer, Bruce Raymer. True or false?
That's 100% true.
It is true.
Jaws is my favorite movie.
Oh.
And it was always a special thrill to work at Universal. And, if my energy level was low, like in a video game, the way your energy level for a character can go down, I'd go for a walk or maybe even take a cart out and just cruise around the back lot for a minute during my lunch break and just seeing the shark or people's reaction to the shark and then seeing, that there are all these sound stages around, my energy will come right back up and be ready to go tackle whatever I had to tackle for the afternoon. So Bruce, Jaws, iconic movie, deep, spot in my brain and in my heart as my favorite film. I spent a lot of time in Martha's Vineyard actually in the summers, and which is where Jaws is famously shot. You can still see remnants of the orca, at a place not too far from my house, and like all the locations where they filmed. So I can't even avoid it. Like I love it, and it's around me. And I know I've read so many of the books about the filmmaking of it and the shooting of it. When I was in film school, I took a course on Spielberg's movies and spent a lot of time breaking it down shot by shot. So yeah, there wasn't going to be a Jaws question that I wasn't going to get right.
And when you say the orca, because I'm not as big of a Jaws fanatic as you, I saw it once and then it just made me never want to go to the water again. So
yeah, well, I still watch it all the time. I still am terrified of the water, although I do go in it quite a bit. But every time there's a shadow, you're like, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? The orca is Quint's ship that he goes out to try to hunt the shark on. And they built it for the movie, which obviously now 50 years ago. And so it's like pieces of wood now. It's not like anything that resembles a ship, but you can still see it when you cruise around in the little harbor there in Chilmark, Massachusetts.
That is Instagrammable. I would go. I would go. All right. Next, true or false?
Yeah.
Ramesh Sippy's film Sholay ran uninterrupted for 3 years in Mumbai's Minerva Theatre. True or false?
I remember that film, and it was a huge hit. It was a kind of this iconic Bollywood classic. I think true.
False.
Oh no!
Because it ran for 5 years.
Oh my god!
But that isn't. I mean, like
that's crazy. 5 years.
Technically true.
Yeah.
Technically true.
Yeah. So it did run for 3. And then it ran for 2 more. So I wasn't 100% wrong.
And by the way, I've seen Sholay, but I'm like looking at this and I'm like, this is correct, right? I'm like thinking about to it because this is one of the few films that was like known in like California film schools.
Really?
Before people started caring about Bollywood.
It makes sense. I remember watching that as a young child because my family they'd rent Bollywood movies from like the local Indian grocer. And we would rent that one over and over again because I loved it. And there was even a play I was in as a kid where I played the bad guy, Gabbar Singh, who Amjad Khan played in the movie. And like that's some of the dialogue I can still, if pressed, I can still do it.
Really? I'm not going to make you do it, but now anyone who watches this podcast, if you see him in the wild, make him do it. Like make him do it.
Yeah. I mean, I could do some, but I'm not going to do it.
I dig it. We're going to move into the final trivia question.
Okay.
Yes, this is the final trivia question. This is a great one. And I have a feeling this is also going to be one you're not going to get wrong. Michael Mann's 1981 film Thief was nominated for a Razzie Award for Worst Score. True or false?
Boy, I can only imagine. That feels too specific not to be true. So I'm going to say true.
It is true. And it was composed by Tangerine Dream.
I remember
despite being nominated for Worst Score, Michael Mann used them again for the 1983 film The Keep. There must be like a book out there of all of the weird score stories with Tangerine Dream because that also has 2 scores on The Legend, the Ridley Scott from 1985.
Yeah.
One of them's Tangerine Dream. The other one is Jerry Goldsmith. I think Jerry Goldsmith was the one they put in theaters. Like Tangerine Dream, that's an acquired taste, I guess.
I would have said, even if you hadn't finished the question, I would have said, I know all about the score. I love that movie. I love Michael Mann and I love Thief. It's my favorite film out of all of his movies. And I love the score in particular.
Yeah. So you love it. So you're one of the people that go against it.
I think it's criminal that it got a Razzie. I think it's just so iconic. And it fit the theme and the time. It was 1981. I think it is criminally under-recognized. And yeah, you said it. The Tangerine Dream then went on to do other movies. Risky Business. A lot of people heard that score.
Yeah, and they liked it. Yeah. But they've had like several like instances because they're such, I think, an acquired taste because it's very heavily synthy. It's like they're really ethereal, I think, with some of their stuff and like also very gritty. I don't know if that's everyone. Like they are the perfect version of like urban paranormal activity. You know what I mean? Like I don't know if that is.
We got to bring that back. I'm going to take that back to the office, see if we can get it into another movie.
Urban paranormal.
Totally.
Listen, now you get to ask me questions.
Oh, love it. Okay, are you ready?
As I'll ever be.
All right, here's the first one. You can't kill a ghost. And the choices are A, Candyman, B, The Bourne Ultimatum, or C, The Dead Don't Die.
The Dead Don't Die. You can't kill a ghost. It's either Candyman or The Bourne Ultimatum, so I'm gonna go with Candyman. Is The Bourne Ultimatum?
It's The Bourne. You said it before I could do it. You knew it. It's
I
The Bourne
know
Ultimatum.
because I was like, I think I can actually picture you can't kill a ghost because he was supposed to be dead. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I knew it was one of the two, so we're fine.
That's still pretty good. You got there.
I got there.
I'm gonna give you that one.
Thank
give
you.
that one.
Nobody else.
I get
will.
to decide, right?
Yes, you can decide. This is true.
I enjoy having the power of being the greater. Okay, here's another one. If You Want Time, by the magazine.
Okay.
All right, the choices are A, About Time, B, While We're Young, or C, The Fast and the Furious.
This is what's sad.
Yeah.
I think I know, but I don't remember the quote. Say it again.
If You Want Time, by the magazine.
Fast and Furious?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
Yes.
Who says it, though? I just don't remember the quote.
I don't remember either, but it is like just cheeky enough to
Like, that's what I'm saying,
definitely
like, who
be one
says
of
it?
those like tossed up lines in the movie.
Paul Walker says it.
Does he really?
Yes, Paul Walker says it. Okay. I was just like, who says that? That's what I can't picture.
Yeah.
And I think it's because I try not to think about Paul anymore because
Right,
it just makes you
right,
sad.
right. Whenever you see a title for Fast and the Furious, you have to really parse where the articles are and the language to know which one it is because sometimes the numbers aren't in there. So that was what I was most focused on. Okay, here's another one. Break off limbs and heads. Pile them up. Easy peasy. Got it.
Okay.
The choices are A, Five Nights at Freddy's, B, The Witch, or C, The Bad Guys.
I guess this is going to be Five Nights at Freddy's, right?
So
yeah.
So I answer this question. Yeah.
It's got to be five.
It is Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah. Got it.
Totally.
Also, shout out to Matthew Lillard in that movie. Can I just say, like, I don't know you as a person, but him in that movie was my favorite thing ever.
He is great. He's so great. He's doing an unscripted show for us called Killer Cakes.
I saw.
He's just such a great personality.
Yeah.
And like a horror legend from Scream too. So
and that's what also kind of tipped me off as a movie person. The minute I saw him, I'm like, you are not just here to be the kickoff exposition, sweetie.
Right. There's another Matthew Lillard moment coming in the movie. You knew.
Oh yeah, I was like, you are going to return at some point.
Right. All right, are you ready for another one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here we go. This one's longer. Now you're stuck in this day. Congrats. Oh, and by the way, you're going to die again. Again and again. The choices are Death Race, Happy Death Day to You, or Puss in Boots, The Last Wish.
Happy Death Day to You, right? Yeah, that's
the Blumhouse ones are obviously going to be the answer here.
Well,
if I'm
no, but
sitting here in
Happy
the
Death
room.
Day, I did a lot of stuff with Happy Death Day. I would never forget that. Jessica is the cutest sweetheart. She's really great.
Thematically, though, this could totally work with Puss in Boots.
It could work
right?
with Puss in Boots.
I could see this quote
I'm
working
like,
in that movie really easily. Totally.
No, I got that
Right.
one. Well, that was great. I did okay. I feel like I was serviceable.
You did great.
I didn't
You did
miss
great.
Fast and
You did
Furious,
great. You
so
did great.
the gearheads will not come for me. They would have. They're worse than Swifties. Don't let you get it twisted.
Isn't it great to have fans that are that passionate and care about something, though?
Absolutely.
I love that. Our Five Nights at Freddy's fans are like that. Anytime, anything, there's a whiff of it in social or they read something about it, it just like blows up. It feels like you're, unsheathing the bazooka, and you're bringing out, and you're like, this thing's gonna go off. It's gonna seem innocuous, and then there's gonna be a giant explosion.
Would you want to be any other place?
No. It's amazing. We were talking about it earlier, but it's amazing to see the things that you work on have an impact in the world and in culture. And boy, anything that we do that touches Five Nights at Freddy's, that property from what Scott Cawthon created and then what we amplified with the movie, it is just still so potent in the world.
So I'm going to give you a little rapid fire questions.
It's just like a series of tests. That's what this is. It feels
we
like a
chatted
gauntlet.
for a bit to
All
begin.
right. I know.
It's not
I
just
don't know.
but I want to know more about you. So
Okay,
yeah, how else
okay.
we can do that? First thing that comes to mind, no wrong answers. Favorite movie snack?
Popcorn.
Last
Popcorn or butter, but popcorn.
Okay. Last show you binged?
I don't get to make the choices in my house, so don't judge my answer. But like other folks of a certain age, The Perfect Couple.
Oh, that was a good one. Mine, The Worst Roommate.
Oh,
Season
yeah.
2.
Love it. You're on brand. That should have been my answer.
I know, but it was mine. I'm
Okay.
literally telling you the
All right,
truth.
all right.
What actor can do no wrong in your estimation?
Oh, boy. Well, he's no longer with us, but Paul Newman was always my forever, any choice.
Popular
always.
answer.
Yeah.
My answer as well.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Go to the movie theater alone, yes or no?
100% yes.
Awesome. Favorite classic Universal film?
Oh, boy. I love the monsters. It's when I was working at the studio, I spent a lot of time figuring out how we bring them back in different ways. But I'm partial, and I'll stay on brand. The Invisible Man was, I think, as a classic, but also how it was reinvented and brought back to relevance most recently. Is one of my favorites.
It's not The Invisible Man, but did you know also, since you were part of Blumhouse, who again, the folks that made Paranormal Activity, where the very first jump scare happened in cinema?
No, I don't think I do.
Phantom of the Opera.
Really?
Yeah, it's in the Universal classic films,
Yeah?
Phantom of the
Yeah.
Opera. It is attributed as the first cinematic jump scare
to
when
go
they
back.
pull off his mask and the organ goes.
Right.
That is literally.
That's the first one? I
That
gotta
is
go
the
back.
very
I
first
gotta
jump
go back and
scare
watch that.
attributed on cinema. Maybe somebody in their backyard did it, but that's the one that's got the credit in the books.
That's incredible.
So you were within the house that
Yeah.
literally built jump scares.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love it. Well, Abhijay, this was great. It was so great to
Thank
talk
you for having
movies
me.
with you. I would say come back, but it's a one-time thing. But I'll see you around. This was great. I really
All right.
appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.